to happen.
Well, I was going to say, you mentioned this coalition, you met on the 3rd of October, and then you had a follow-up meeting, and in the material that I read from that, you were, and you said you're hoping to come out with materials that people and groups can use, so, you know, in the future, that, hopefully that'll be available, and people can either on your website or our websites here, we can have that available for people.
We will create a website as much as we can put up. But we're going to, again, link to National Priorities Project or Friends Committee on National Legislation, whom we're working with on the Deficit Commission effort, and others that are doing great work that we don't have to duplicate. So the idea is find out from you what tools you need to work at the local level and to make your voice heard nationally, and make sure that you get them.
Mike, you know, when you address the wars and you address the financial aspect, but there is another aspect which is equally important, if not important, and that's the environmental damage. Because the testing, the nuclear testing, the bases all over many, many nations using fuels, these fuels that lead into a disastrous degrading of the qualities of water, the air that we breathe, and it is terrible. So that's another cost of the manufacture of the weapons and also the reliance of the military.
And the environmental movement, the environmental justice movement, and the climate change movement are movements that we need to connect to. Partly just because the Pentagon is the world's biggest polluter and climate change force,
Climate change.
unless maybe you leave out the oil companies, and partly because where's the money going to come from to construct a clean energy economy, if not from cutting military spending. So there are strong reasons to connect, but we need to make the connections, and we need to make them locally as well as nationally. So if there are people working on those issues here, they're good people to talk to.
Just quickly, it seems to me you said nothing about the right wing. There are big deals is deficits are too high, the national debt is too high, we have to reduce the size of government. Well, the military is half of our government, according to some of these figures. I would think there'd be a great appeal there somehow to reduce these huge costs that are occurring in the military.
Yeah.
You have to get over that whole business of the hawks.
This campaign crosses ideological lines.
Yeah, I'm going to do something very unusual in a Unitarian Universalist church and evangelize. You really have there are two extremes. You have the level that, in the end, really has to go and take action on this, which is corporations and large government entities and that kind of thing. At the other extreme, you have individual effort. And what this church does, we're an interfaith community. There are people here who believe all kinds of things, and some people who are secular, and that's wonderful. But what we are is, as with many volunteer organizations like LaPoco, you know, we are an intermediate between individual action and the large organizations that get things done. So this church is one of many resources you could use to, you know, to get involved, work not just on this effort, but things like, you know, Gene, could you put up your hand? He's chair of our social action committee. He scared the wits out of me on peak oil, which I never really thought of before. And, you know, but again, he coordinates a lot of, there are a lot of things that are of like-minded kind of things. There's peace and justice issues, this issue, peak oil, climate change. A lot of these things are together. And Gene would be a good point person as far as knowing. Tom also, and I know you all know Tom because Tom seems to know everyone in the entire world. Tom he knows the different groups that are involved in different progressive programs in the Lehigh Valley. So I'd say Gene and Tom are two people you really need to know if you want to get involved above the level of just your own individual action. Thus ended the sermon. No.
Okay, since the treasurer of this organization is not here, let me just throw out something. To bring our deficit down, what if we started taxing religious organizations instead of giving tax breaks?
Let me say something really positive about that. I'm all for that, because you know what? If religious organizations are taxed, then they can practice tax resistance.
Starting now.
There's
Starting now.
one other thing which seems to be off the table, just like the military budgets and all political discussions I've heard, and that's population control. Seems like our neighbors in China are doing this, but we assume that we can, you know, does that fit in at all with your thinking?
Not yet. I mean, you know, having dealt with this in different contexts, especially like environmental and climate change, on the one hand, obviously, if you have more people, you're going to have more, you know, fossil fuel use and energy consumption. On the other hand, population control kind of efforts have such a bad history of being kind of intermingled with eugenics and it's like, you know, racism. You know, basic. Thank you. That it's a more complicated job to figure out, you know, how are you going to take it on and what the policy should be.
I had mentioned this once before. Another group that's part of social action read the book Half the Sky, and in there they put forth the idea that the education and empowerment of women is the best method for population control, because now that they're not subject, that they have to have kids, they're going to have them when they want to, and they're going to wind up having a lot less. So that's something that everybody could definitely get behind.
So, I'm getting the high sign that maybe we've been talking long enough.
Impossible.
There are treats, and people can keep talking, but I guess, Tom, do you have anything else to say?
And I just want to say, I hope you take this up. Please, like, you know, tell us what you need, because that's what we're here to provide.
Thank you.
And we're going to learn how to do this together by talking to each other and comparing notes among different local organizing efforts.
If you have further interest in this, the Lehigh Valley Peace Coalition meets at the Lopoco Center, and we'll take this up further, and there'll be more coming out about this. So keep involved with that, and if you want to talk to Mike more, there's some nice people brought some cookies back there and a little coffee if you'd like. So thank you for coming.
Because they have